It's Hyper Halloween.
You know, it's like the 5th review of Hyper Halloween 2022, and I haven't mentioned a zombie movie yet. I think it's time to change that. Let's talk about 1984's C.H.U.D. C.H.U.D is more of a pseudo-zombie film. Slight spoilers, but C.H.U.D stands for Cannibalistic Humanoid Underground Dweller. So, as one can imagine, it revolves around these humanoid creatures attacking citizens of New York City. The zombie aspect comes from the fact that a bite or scratch from these guys can transform an individual into one of them. C.H.U.D opens up with a woman being pulled into the sewer by, well, one of the C.H.U.Ds. This opening kill actually ties into the plot more than just being a random victim for the monster's body count. But more on that in a bit. We then meet our protagonist, George Cooper, played by John Hurd. Cooper is a photographer with a bit of a chip on his shoulder. He was a prominent fashion photographer at one time, but isn't any longer. He's now trying to take photos for a story he's helping with about the homeless people in the area taking refuge underground. A lot of the homeless people that Cooper has spoken to and taken pictures of have apparently disappeared recently. Cooper's girlfriend, Lauren Daniels, who's played by Kim Grice, actually lives in a studio apartment near where the open kill woman was dragged away. Speaking of the murder, we get a glimpse at the fact that whatever these creatures are, they're not worried about being seen in public as one grabs a homeless man on the streets in broad daylight. To be fair though, it isn't seen, but we see a bunch of boxes go flying everywhere and a bloody hole in the ground where the guy was. C.H.U.D also revolves around a police captain, Captain Bach, played by Christopher Curry. We see him interact with a homeless lady that has just been brought in. She tried to lift a gun off of a police officer. Her reason? The homeless that are living underground are trying to find weapons in order to stay safe. We, as the viewers, know that there's something dangerous attacking people, so it makes sense that they're trying to arm themselves. We also follow the antics of AJ, the Reverend Shepherd, who is played by Daniel Stern. Stern is great as always, and his character, Shepherd, runs a local homeless shelter. Captain Bosch decides to ask Shepherd about the missing homeless people. There's a history between Bosch and Shepherd that the movie kinda goes into. Bosch eventually reveals that the reason he's so interested in the disappearances of the homeless people is that his wife has also gone missing. Another spoiler alert, but she was actually the opening kill. While Bosch and Shepherd are conversing, Cooper is helping out the homeless lady that was trying to steal the cop's gun. She was one of the people that Cooper took photos of and interviewed, so he's happy to help her out. He walks with her back to the subterranean tunnels that they live in, and he sits down with her and her brother, Victor. She explains to Cooper that the gun was for her brother. She explains that not only did she want the gun, but also bandages. The gun is for the quote-unquote ugly things that come around, and the bandages were for Victor. Victor was recently attacked by a C.H.U.D, and his wound is very infected. Shortly after these scenes, we actually get our first glimpse at the C.H.U.D monster, and honestly it looks fantastic. It's grotesque and super creepy. We see it attack a man in a phone booth. It drags him away but leaves his grandchild behind. The grandchild is brought to the police station, which further pushes the monster narrative. After this scene happens, Bosch and Shepherd go to meet with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Why they do this is because in a previous scene, Bosch and Shepherd investigate the underground area with a Geiger counter that Shepherd had found. It starts going off, so they of course get worried. When they go to this commission, more is revealed to the audience. The commission apparently had an abundance of chemical waste that they needed to transport out of the city. They were unable to do so because of a court order preventing them from doing it. That's when the audience is told what C.H.U.D stands for. At the same time as this meeting, the gas company is actually doing work in the tunnels and finds a dead C.H.U.D. The commission thinks they're okay now that the creature is dead, not realizing that there are more. The group figures out that the monster died due to a gas leak. With this information known, the head of the commission sends a group back down to finish the work that they were doing. Bosch ends up sending his men down as well, equipped with flamethrowers, believing that there are more of these monsters. The underground group of course discovers an area with high levels of radiation and are attacked by the C.H.U.Ds. Given that gas killed one of the C.H.U.Ds, the head of the commission decides to gas the rest of them. The rest of the movie plays out as you would expect it to. Cooper and Shepard try to get the homeless out of the tunnels, Cooper's girlfriend is attacked, Victor transforms into a C.H.U.D, and the main characters have to survive C.H.U.D attacks. We also get a cameo from John Goodman. He plays a cop that gets attacked by a C.H.U.D. It's cool that he makes a cameo, but it honestly doesn't add much to the film. One more thing I'd like to point out is that Cooper and Shepard find that the Commission has been dumping radioactive materials underground for years as opposed to transporting them out of the city. These chemicals also include C.H.U.D-related chemicals. So, I guess C.H.U.D s are chemicals now? Well, sort of. C.H.U.D actually stands for Contamination Hazard Urban Disposal in this case. The underground homeless people have been coming into contact with these chemicals, which cause them to mutate into the cannibalistic, humanoid underground dwellers. And that's C.H.U.D in a nutshell. It takes a lighthearted approach on government corruption and environmental issues, but isn't in your face about it like many movies today, for instance, Birdemic. Again, the overall tone is lighthearted, but there is still enough drama between the characters and tension due to the grotesque monsters that it still feels like a legit horror film. While I really like C.H.U.D, I won't deny that there are flaws with the movie. The pacing is a bit wonky at times, and the ending feels really abrupt. And what I mean by that is that it ends on a weird note. It's left up to the viewer's imagination as to whether the gas wiped out the C.H.U.Ds or not. We also don't know if Cooper's girlfriend is okay. I glossed over it, but when she's attacked, she was actually bit. I assume that would spell doom for her, but the rules of how C.H.U.Ds come to be isn't exactly spelled out for us. I assume it can be transferred via bites and scratches, but it's just an assumption. There was a sequel called C.H.U.D 2, Bud the C.H.U.D, but it's its own story and doesn't continue this one, so unfortunately, we never find out the answers to these questions. Random fun fact before I wrap this up, C.H.U.D is actually referenced on The Simpsons show a lot. Homer mentions it when he recounts his terrible trip to New York City, and the family owns a copy of the movie. I too suggest that you find a copy of both movies if you can. At the end of the day, C.H.U.D is a pretty neat pseudo-zombie flick. It's a slow burn, and I was kept wondering what was going to happen until the abrupt ending. I will warn you that a lot of the action does happen off screen, so that's a bit of a bummer. But the interactions between the characters and the set designs are pretty cool for the time. Plus, the monster's pretty unique. It's pure B-movie goodness. If you're interested in viewing this movie and haven't seen it previously, then I suggest avoiding the trailer. It does spoil quite a bit. Other than that, I highly recommend checking out C.H.U.D.